Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. This was requested by a couple people. So, one of the earlier requests, it was earlier, and then someone recently requested it like yesterday. And so I decided to make this video so that I don't forget. Signs an avoidant dislikes you. And the reason why I use the word dislikes is because the commenter used it. And dislike might not be the best word, but it was requested in that way, so I'm using it that way. The best way to put it is that they're signaling disinterest in you. That might be a better way for me to put it, but I use that because they used it. So the very first one is that they're constantly irritated at you. And if you ask if they're annoyed at you, they might actually admit that they're annoyed, or they feel like they're irritated with you for some reason. And they might not fully recognize why, but you will know that this is not a rough patch in the relationship because it's continuously building. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. With a rough patch, and all couples I feel like has been through a rough patch, even like a small one. But what happens is you're building that. Like in the rough patch, it feels really tense. But then as soon as you get out of the rough patch, it's even better than before some of the time, or it's just the way it was before. That rough patch doesn't affect the relationship. However, if this is a particular case where they're disliking you, they're uncomfortable with you, they're not happy, what ends up happening is actually that irritation is spreading throughout the relationship and it's not getting any better. It's getting worse. And so that's one way to recognize that this individual dislikes you or is losing interest in you. The second one is something I've seen a lot of patients do. So I don't know if everybody can relate to this, but a lot of patients have done this with potential people that they've been in a relationship with that they no longer want to be with. They actually mention to that person, if the relationship isn't going to get better, then maybe it's better to not be together. So they are alluding to the fact that if they don't see improvement, that no longer is it worth entertaining this relationship. And it's almost like they're telling you that they're on their last leg for the relationship. But the interesting part is avoidants don't say it in a way that they're clearly distressed. Like an anxious person, if they're really distressed or bothered about something, they're going to bring it up multiple times. They're going to have a lot of emotional reactions. And avoidance going to say this maybe just once, and you might not even realize how serious it is, which is why it's a little frustrating, but it is something that happens a lot. The next one is they bring up that they feel like you two are incompatible. So many people ignore this one, and it is a very good indicator that the person, whether it's not really that they dislike you, but it's that they don't want this relationship. If they indicated that they feel that you're incompatible, a lot of people think that this is like a deactivation strategy, which yes, it can be. But the part that I think people don't understand about people with avoidant attachment is avoidant attachment is not necessarily the disinterest in another person or avoiding romance. Like people think that way. Avoidant attachment is when an individual, particularly dismissive avoidant, I'm going to talk about that particularly, but both individuals, they have had moments in their life where they were taught that relying on yourself is a better option than relying on other people. That's part of it. Their childhood tends to be more strict. If it's a fearful avoidant, there's a lot of trauma in their childhood as well, plethora of trauma. And so that can translate into relationships, but often it's going to translate into other parts of their relationship, like outside of their relationship as well. So if a person is saying that you two are incompatible and you're thinking, okay, this is just avoidant attachment, you might, and it's not avoidant attachment, you're going to get hurt. And I don't want that for you, because a lot of avoidants, they can be in relationships and they can say it's incompatible. I mean, they won't say some of these things. They will still maybe avoid intimacy in the bedroom. They will still be really, really slow to commit. They will still be really protective over their finances, or maybe they haven't been in a relationship in like 10 years. Those are traits that are more forefront of avoidant attachment. But if they're saying you're incompatible, that doesn't have to be avoidant. Like a person can say this and it's not avoidant at all, but you feel like they're an avoidant because maybe you like them or whatever situation. I really want to emphasize that because a lot of avoidants do not do this. They might, but regardless of what's happening, at this time, the relationship is not in a situation where like two people just disagree, right? There are avoidants who are they're deactivating, but it doesn't necessarily disagree with their partner's perspective. They might crash out and say something when they're in a stressful moment, but they're not going to continuously say the relationship is incompatible. Otherwise, maybe it just is. Because it's not fair for you to continuously try to prove that the relationship is compatible when they can't see that. And so that was kind of a tangent, but I really want you guys to understand that because I do read some of your comments and a lot of you guys are mentioning like avoidants can't do this or they won't do that, but it's not always the case. Sometimes it's just that you're dealing with someone who's not necessarily avoidant. They're immature. Maybe they don't like you. Maybe they're avoidant, but it's also that they don't like you, right? And so there are avoidants who they act better or more secure with someone they care about. It might not be 100% secure, but it's going to be consistent. And I want you guys to understand that even with fearful avoidance, they'll at least communicate a little bit. They'll try to. You'll see some genuine attributes, right? If you're not seeing that there's any genuine care for you, it doesn't matter what their attachment style. If they say you're incompatible, maybe you are, and I don't want you to get hurt. The next one is they may bring up either directly or indirectly or both that they feel frustrated on things that you've done or things that they feel about the relationship, but they tiptoe around it because they fear that you'll react a certain way. I'm going to give an example of this because this one is one of the most common things that I see when I'm practicing, and it's typically framed in this way, which is why this is the example. They might say something, let's say you are talking to your friends and your friends don't answer your text message, or you get really mad that you feel like you're always the one giving in your friendships. And they might say, do you think it's possible your friends don't reply because you're too clingy? And so it's an indirect means that they kind of feel that way about you. They feel like you're too much or too clingy. And so they kind of attribute that to the behavior that's happening between you and your friends. And it might be true and it might not be true, but that's their perspective. And it's because they're seeing you in a more negative light. And this is unfortunate because when you're in a relationship with someone, you don't want it to be a negative light. You don't want them to perceive you as continuously negative. If you're having a conversation with them about something that has nothing to do with them, you don't want their mind to be thinking about the negative things about yourself. Right? That's what happened here. And it is a sign that they're starting to feel uncomfortable with you. They might start resenting you. And that's part of it as well. And it can be tricky. Now, I do want to mention, if you're in this situation with an avoidant, it doesn't mean that it's over. It means that there's things that you guys need to communicate, both of you guys, to fix. Because sometimes avoidants get into this situation because your attachment style is clashing with their attachment style. You might not be too clingy, but you're too clingy for them. And so you guys have to meet in the middle. That's how to resolve this. It doesn't mean that the relationship is over. It's tricky. The next one is that they admit they don't really see you as their type or the person they want a future with. This is going to be triggering, but I've actually had patients that have done this. And most of them, they do leave the relationship and they are relieved overall. Some of them regret it. Some of them absolutely regret it. But it's unfair for the receiver, like you as the person. If you're not an avoidant and someone says this to you, it might be an attachment issue. They might be lying to themselves. Some avoidants do this. If they're really how do I even explain this? If they're really slow to healing and there's something about you that they don't want to admit they like because they're afraid to get hurt, they can do this to try and push you away. And you might know that. But at the end of the day, that relationship might be so difficult. It might be like, I don't know, it might not be worth it, honestly. So yes, they might be avoidant, they might dislike you, or they might be a person that's secure that dislikes you. I don't know what it is specifically for you. You're going to know. But if they say this, it's coming from a negative emotion. And the next one is that they ask for more space than they frequently did before. And this can be tricky because it might be a number of reasons communicate. But if you have all 6 of these, you might be in a situation that an avoidant dislikes you. So they're constantly irritated with you. They mention the relationship. If it doesn't get better, they feel like it's better to be apart. They bring up that you two might be incompatible. They bring up things that frustrate them about you in an indirect way. So it's almost spreading to their perspective view. They admit they don't really see you as their type, and they ask for more space than usual. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.